that safety is dangerous. The only regret I ever hear is wishing that you had tweeted that tweet, wishing that you had said that phrase, wishing that you had launched that campaign, wishing that you had launched that maybe controversial feature, because it can feel in the moment that safe marketing, safe messaging is the way to go. You don't want to take risks, but actually that safety is dangerous because your competitor is going to come in and do that thing.
Tell us more about yourself and tell us more about Serotonin.
Sure. So my name's Amanda Cassatt, aka Amanda.eth, depending on whether that moves you, but that's my name on Twitter. I am the founder and CEO of a company called Serotonin. We bring the world's breakthrough technologies to market. Before that, I was chief marketing officer at a company called Consensus, which played a big role in bringing Ethereum to market and launching a lot of leading products in the space, including MetaMask and Fura, a bunch of others you might have heard of, like Gitcoin, Truffle, a bajillion others.
You've been one of the first, and I'd say pioneering almost crypto marketing right from the get-go. Tell us more about what got you to this place in terms of leading such a big, successful company that's leading for distribution, all things, being impactful in crypto. Tell us more about the work.
So I came from more pure media and marketing background. I worked for Arianna Huffington right out of college. And my journey, which involved co-founding a startup that was concerned with content distribution and how content creators get paid online, led me toward a fascination with payments that brought me to the very first Ethereum meetup, serendipitously, in New York. And so I got to encounter Ethereum in 2015. And I realized that this was the densest concentration of the smartest people, the most excited I'd ever seen about anything. And I realized I need to join the circus and I need to really deeply understand what this is about. And my background was very different from those early Ethereum folks. It was a very research and academic driven project at that time. And I was the most commercial person in all of those rooms. When I first interviewed with Joe Lubin for the CMO role, I said, I want to make Ethereum like Starbucks and the MLB. And that was a laughing matter. That was absolutely ridiculous. Not only was that hard to imagine happening, it wasn't really anything anyone wanted. But I wanted to prove that this set of ideas and technologies that genuinely could make the world a better place, that deserved the techno-optimism that the founders and original team really believed in, that could become something that mattered and impactful to lots of people, not just people that cared about kind of niche cryptography and academic projects. And so Joe was on board. It was a bit of a self-appointed mission in many ways because I wanted to bring this set of ideas that they were so excited about to lots of people. That's really what moved me. I felt like it was possible to come up with the knife's edge messaging and narratives that would actually break through. And we were able to do that with Ethereum.
For a lot of people in the industry, I mean, the industry's shifted. A lot of growing up that has happened. We have suits in the room now. What is your advice for someone that's trying to grow in the industry right now, from a marketing perspective and from a builder perspective?
We're growing up, and I'm not always sure what that means, because as new ideas get de-risked and become more conventional and accepted, we get a flood of more conventional type people and thinkers into the space. And I think that creates an opportunity for radical, exciting thinkers to be more differentiated now than they might have been in the past when our space was full of radicals. And so what I would say is, don't be safe. Don't fail to question the assumptions. The incumbents will always win. The house always wins. Top down always wins. Don't be afraid to question the assumptions that most people seem to have. Think from first principles, or better yet, zeroth principles. What should exist in this space that doesn't exist yet? And where's the Venn diagram overlap between that should in your mind and what you're uniquely capable of doing that no one else is? If I had been a developer and I'd gotten into the Ethereum world as early as I did, I would have been less successful than because I was something different than most of the people that were involved in the early movement. I was able to add something differentiated because I had a different background, not something lesser. And so think about what you're passionate about, what you're good at, and where that converges with what this movement is capable of and what it should be in your mind.
Going into the distribution side of things now, it is harder than ever to keep attention, even if you're able to get it once. And algorithms are changing. How we consume information is changing. Our attention spans are changing. How can projects in this industry really focus and excel at distribution? That's something that you and your team have been able to learn so well and to almost have a repeat model, if I will.
So my first piece of advice, if you haven't started your project yet, build something charismatic. Build something exciting. Don't assume that only boring, unsexy things win, because that's the narrative of this cycle. It's actually kind of untrue. If you look at the very biggest, winnerest things, they're all exciting, charismatic narratives. And so you can build something exciting in that way. And if you don't feel guts and glory motivated as the founder about the thing that you're building, believe me, no one else is. And you're not going to be able to hire some marketing team that's able to tack on ex post facto what the juice is. Because you need to look in your soul. You need to look inward for the juice. What is actually making you wake up every day and work on this project? It has to be that you're solving some kind of unsolved problem in the world. And it has to be because something's at stake if you don't. And so start with those stakes. What are you trying to fix? What's going to go wrong if you don't fix it? Why is your solution the best solution? And only build that thing. Don't build something else. And then when it comes to distribution and storytelling, don't pull your punches. I think the number one takeaway from working with hundreds of founders now, the only regret I ever hear is wishing that you had tweeted that tweet, wishing that you had said that phrase, wishing that you had launched that campaign, wishing that you had launched that maybe controversial feature, because it can feel in the moment that safe marketing, safe messaging is the way to go. You don't want to take risks, but actually that safety is dangerous because your competitor is going to come in and do that thing. And if there's a there, if there's something that, the market really wants, but you can't quite say you're doing that thing, someone else is going to say it. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, we were in the cancellation era. We were in the era where the role of a comms person was to tell you, don't do that, don't say that, tiptoe on eggshells. We are in a different era. We're in an era where there is a fairly efficient and liquid market for storytelling of every sort, for words of every sort. And you need to stick out within that. And so if there's something true that people want, that's deeply invigorating and motivating and exciting to them, say the thing and figure out the most mimetic way to say the thing, and don't pull your punches. I mean, I still see PR and comms people talking on X like it's 10, 15 years ago, cautioning, oh, you shouldn't have done that interview. Oh, you shouldn't have said that thing. Oh, you shouldn't have launched that campaign. Well, oftentimes those are the people that couldn't have even gotten you in that story, that couldn't have even thought of that campaign.
I love that a lot. I think it is a different era, and times have really changed from 10 years ago to now to even a couple of years ago. And I think the cycle will continue to shift. What is a mistake that you see founders make? Obviously, there's say the thing in all of those aspects. In terms of storytelling, what can make a story really resonate? And how can you meaningfully ask questions and really get the best stories out? And what is something you wish more founders or the most eloquent founders do that you wish others did as well?
So there are two questions there, and I'm going to get to both. One is how to be a good podcast host.
Yeah.
/ dinner party guest. And the other is how should founders tell their story? And these are different because not every founder has to be a podcast host, thank the Lord. Although many increasingly are. So first thing is how to ask a question, which you're doing. I guess I'd almost throw the question back at you, but what I'd like to do is think, what am I actually interested in hearing from this person? Actually, not some fake interest, real interest. What do I actually want to know about this person? And I just always ask that. And sometimes it comes across as a little direct. Yesterday, I sat down with someone who lives in Abu Dhabi, and we were in a business meeting, and I was saying, are there drones hitting things? I was curious. Have you seen one? What do they look like? It was interesting. That was what I was interested in. And there was no one recording, but I just went there. And it wasn't like it was, hurtful or cause anxiety, really. But I wasn't just there to have a formulaic business conversation about the thing that we were sitting down about. I wanted to I was genuinely curious about something that was happening that he probably knew about, that was going on in his world and his life. And I gleaned real information from that interaction instead of having these kind of businessy, surface level fake interactions all the time. And so that's how I prep for the Endgame podcast is I think, what do I really want to hear from this person? And that's probably pretty similar to what the audience wants to hear from them. And I'll, of course, give anyone the entree to talk about their talking points, talk about their business, whatever. As soon as I edit that out, honestly, it's the least interesting part. but I just try to get into that core of my real genuine interests. And it's the same thing as you want to do at a dinner table. And then the question of how founders should tell their story. So a big mistake I see founders making is they get bored of saying the same thing over and over, so they vary it up. Don't do that. You're not here to entertain yourself. You're here to have a consistent message that's memorable for your audience. So you need to come up with those 1 or 2 or 3 phrases about what you're building that you use every time. Because even though you're bored of saying the same thing over and over, your message goes out to different segments of your audience every single time. And even if it does reach the same person twice, all the better. It really takes 3, 4 taps to get into someone's head and be memorable. And it doesn't harm anything if they see the same message from you a few times. Also, it's the same thing with a campaign that's working. Like if we have a tagline, a campaign, and the market's loving it, they're like, make another one. No, just keep using that one. Keep using that one until it's actually too much, until it's actually boring. The other thing I would add is like thinking about background and contrast against the background.
Yeah.
So it's like you're having the conversation, you're asking the question that is the actual object of interest, and then you have all of this footage, you have all this content, or maybe you have a campaign, or maybe you have a blog post or whatever. So you have all this content. How do you slice and dice that content to go out on different channels? The thing to remember is don't view the content in a vacuum. Think about how it will stand out against the experience that the audience will have. I'm making a scrolling motion here for a reason, so that it's high contrast, so that it actually stops their scroll, and so they actually pause on it. And so we say this a lot. There's a difference between a zebra walking down Fifth Avenue and a zebra in the zoo. No one's excited about a zebra in the zoo, but everyone's excited about a zebra walking down Fifth Avenue. Same zebra. So how do you make sure that your content is Fifth Avenue, not zoo? Make sure it's high contrast against the background. There are ways to do that visually with color. There's ways to do it with messaging that's mimetic. There's ways to do it, all kinds of ways to do that. I mean, attention has emerged as a genuine alternate currency to monetary currency, right? And that might be increasing, with AI. And if economic value continues to get unpeeled or like good-hearted out, if you think about Goodhart's law, from the description of the underlying value, or if there's going to be so much abundance thanks to AI, hopefully, that money becomes useless to describe anything or to create hierarchies, then we need something else. And I think attention is really starting to form up as one of those something else.
100%. Speaking of AI, what is your advice for how marketing teams can best work with agentic tools with AI? And we're seeing a lot of shifts where it's almost like extremes with adoption or, extreme opposite ends of life. We're not going to touch it. Where do you stand on that? And how do you think teams can best perform with that?
So we care very deeply about being the most cutting edge in our adoption of AI and using the very best tools. And we've built a very sophisticated internal system that everybody uses and feeds into in order to make the best possible use of these really great tools that are coming on the market, and always investigating and being hungry to learn how to use new ones. I would say that there's a really big gap, though, between how these tools are presented in demos on X and what it's like to actually use them. Like a lot of people that just scroll on X think it's now very easy to create a movie quality video with just a few prompts. It is not. And if you actually go into that tool and start playing around with it, it's actually pretty tricky to make that video. You can, but it takes a lot of skill. And it's pretty tricky to make that deck, whatever it is, right? Like they're showing you kind of a catfishing version of the reality. And so we're very focused on getting very good at these tools because it's a real moat. And the other important thing is you, the user, really matters. And I think the confusion people get is, oh, if the tools get good enough, then everyone can produce the same output. And it's not true. Having better tools doesn't standardize everyone's output. It means that someone who's more intelligent, more skilled, better judgment, better discernment can get a much better output. And so, like, the comparable I make is to photography. So when the iPhone came out, or when photography first came out, people said, oh, this is the end of art. Everyone can take the same photo. So what makes one photo better than another? Well, it turns out that the people with the best artistic capabilities, whether it's natural talent combined with training, discernment, judgment, experience, those people ended up being able to take $1 million photos. And I can't take a photo worth 50 cents. That's just what's happening now. And so the limiting factor on your use of AI is your intelligence and your capabilities, right? It's not the AI, it's you, and it's going to keep on being you. And so the rule's this: if you weren't able to create economic value doing activity X before AI tools came out, you're not going to be able to do it now that they're AI. But if you were, then you might be able to keep doing that if you're on the very cutting edge of using those tools, and you might even be able to create more economic value if you can be one of the Pareto winners of the Pareto distribution and end up doing more of your work if you're really the best.
I love that answer. I think to wrap up, then my final question here, what are your 2026 predictions for end of the year? Where do you think we'll be as a space and from a growth and marketing perspective as well?
I'm always the person that believes there are 4-year cycles. And there's always these editorials saying like the 4-year cycle's over, but people don't realize, having done this a few times, that actually is a feature of the 4-year cycle. Having enough people saying that they're gone is a feature that makes them continue. And so I said this the whole time, and whenever people publish op-eds about how it's all changing, I just nod very slowly, because that itself is part of the program. So we're in a bear market, and it's important to know where you are, what you're doing. We're in a bear market. It's time to build. When you're in a bear market, it's like driving a low suspension car. You can feel every little stick and every little rock in the road. There's a reason why people choose to drive low suspension cars. They want to feel the feeling of driving. And you can actually get feedback, micro feedback, and you can fine tune your product. You can make it really great. You can pick up distressed assets that you think are going to actually make it to the other side. There are all kinds of great, you can hire people at reasonable rates. There are all kinds of wonderful games to be played at the bottom. And then there are wonderful games to be played at the top. So the best thing you can do is raise your fund, hire your team, do your campaign, get your product feedback now so that you can scale it up when we go into the next face-melting bull market.